Each autumn and winter, I make batches of fire cider to help ward off illness during the colder months. This year, I've actually grown my own horseradish to add into my fire cider. So today, I'm going to harvest a small amount of the horseradish I've grown, and we're going to make fire cider. So now that the first frost has passed, I'm able to harvest some of the horseradish. I've been waiting for a frost, and generally people wait for a few frosts before they do their harvesting. You plant horseradish in spring. I got a plant through diggers. So you can find a plant and you can put it in the ground in spring. Ideally, we wait till the second year to do the first harvest. So I'm just going to be taking a small amount from this so that the plant can continue on to grow. And next year, I'll be able to harvest a lot more than I will do today. It's ideal to plant your horseradish in an area that you're okay with it taking over, because eventually it will take over, or at least this is what I am told. So I've planted mine in a row in my garden here, and I will transplant it eventually. I have an idea of where I want to put it, but that area has not been built yet. So I will be transplanting it probably in spring when we do have those raised beds sorted in our veg patch number 1. And then I'll be able to keep it contained in that area. But at the moment it is in this row here, and this row here is quite a jungle, as you can probably see behind me. There's also this creeping grass that only seems to be in this little section here, but it's creeping into my garden. So eventually I'm going to have to deal with that. And then of course you're going to harvest your radish in autumn or early winter, depending on when your frosts come or when it starts to die off. So when the leaves start to die off, that is the time that you can start harvesting. At least that is what I've read. This is my first year growing horseradish, and I'm excited to see what's happened. So let's go and take a look. All right, this area of my garden is very much being taken over by all of the calendula growing here, and there's some fennel coming up too. So here I can see that this is the plant that I planted into the ground, and these two plants here are the new ones that have come off this one. And this is why we want to wait 2 years, because we kind of want it to multiply a whole lot more than it has. Look, the tag's still in there as well. Okay, so I've got my spade here, and I'm just going to gently dig in here and try to dig this up without disturbing too much of the new plants next to it. These roots go really low into the ground too, so I want to make sure that I get down deep enough. Although if I do leave some of the roots in the ground, if I do snap it, that's okay, because it's going to grow more horseradish from those roots. I feel like I might need to come in here and I might need to buy a couple of plants next year, because it looks like it's going to take a little bit for this to grow a decent amount. But here we go. It's a small amount, but it's something. So this one here is intertwined in the first one. So I had to take it out together, and then I've got this one left over. So I will whack this in here to remind myself that I've got horseradish still in the ground here. And I'll purchase a few more plants, I think, to put in with this one in the new garden bed when I do get it. People generally don't use this long root here, but because I've only got a small amount, I'll probably use the whole thing. So I'm going to take it to a bucket now and clean this up, and we'll see what we've got. Okay, I've got a bucket of water here to do the first initial wash of this harvest. Let's have a look at the bottom. See, I definitely have broken off a root there and a root here. So there's, and a root here as well. So there's definitely a lot of root still in the ground. See, there's that little one. So this is what I would say 1 year of growth looks like, or at least that's 1 year of growth in my garden. So there's not much there. You want to wait until it's older, and I think that's why people say wait until the 2nd year at least before you harvest the horseradish. So I've got that, and then this is I'm presuming this is the 2nd year of this root here. So this one here, this larger root, is ideal. But I have seen people harvest huge roots from their horseradish. So in a few years' time, I should have some really decent sized horseradish growing in my garden. So there we go. That's what I have to work with. I will probably take off most of these tiny little bits here. Oh, I've just taken off a part there. But I will clean this up a bit more inside, and then we will chop it up and put it into our fire cider. So it's a few days later. I needed to run into town and I had to wait for my favorite shop to open up to get my organic ginger and turmeric. So I had to wait a few days to make this fire cider. I've got my horseradish here, which I've washed again inside. So I'm all ready to make this fire cider. What you'll need for your fire cider is around half a cup of grated ginger, half a cup of the grated horseradish, 1 medium organic onion chopped up. You need 2 jalapeno peppers. Now, I don't have any, but I have got this massive jar of chilies that I grew a couple of years ago and dried. So I'm going to use 2 of these dried peppers. You'll need to use the zest of 1 organic lemon and the juice as well. Now this one is quite big, so I might use half of this lemon for this recipe. Then you can use a tablespoon of turmeric powder or 2 tablespoons of freshly grated turmeric. We're going to use 10 cloves of garlic. So we're going to crush them. I like to just crush them and chop them a little bit. These 2 garlics are quite small and they've both probably got around 8 to 10 cloves in them. So I'm probably going to use around 15 of these cloves just because they're smaller. Then I like to throw in some black pepper because black pepper helps the nutrients in the turmeric come out. So it helps us digest what the turmeric has to offer. So I'm going to throw in maybe a tablespoon of the peppercorns. Some people also like to put in cayenne pepper, but because I'm adding the peppercorns and because I'm adding some hotter chilies into the mix, I think this is going to be fine. Then, of course, you will need some organic apple cider vinegar to make this batch. And then we're going to leave the jar to sit for 4 to 6 weeks for all of the goodness to be pulled out by the vinegar. And then after those 4 to 6 weeks, I like to do 6 weeks, but sometimes if I'm impatient, like I'm making this now, so we might need it in June, early June. So I might make a second batch next week and have that one go a bit longer and be able to strain this one off earlier. And once we've strained it off and discarded everything else, we are going to add honey. So this is the last ingredient that we'll add. I like to add around 1/4 cup of honey. Sometimes I add a little bit more. And then I like to keep my fire cider in the fridge. And whenever we have it, we just take about from a teaspoon to a tablespoon of the liquid and we put it into a cup and add some hot water into there and just take it as it is. You can water it down for the kids a bit more and you can add some more honey in if you like. Also, I forgot to mention how much of the apple cider vinegar you will need. You'll need as much apple cider vinegar as fills the jar that you've got all of your ingredients in. I will put the recipe down in the description below so you can make your own, but there are so many recipes out there and you can tailor it to however you want to make it. So if you would prefer to leave the horseradish out, which I have always done because I've never found fresh horseradish to add into my fire cider. If you don't want to put in turmeric or you prefer to put in more chili or whatever you want, you can tailor it to your own needs. So it's really flexible. You could also just make a very simple one if you only had maybe 3 of the ingredients. All of these foods are really good for you and support us really well in the cooler months. I'm also going to be making a batch where I don't add turmeric because my youngest daughter has braces and she's been recommended not to have any curry and turmeric. I know this is going to be difficult for me, especially she's going to have it for a couple of years, but it can easily stain around the braces and she doesn't want to have some permanent sort of stain or have to have it cleaned or bleached. So we're going to make some without the turmeric. With the one I'm making without the turmeric, I will probably also leave the black pepper out because the reason I put the black pepper in is I like the hit as well of the heat of pepper, but I put it in to support the turmeric. I think I'm going to get blown away. I hope you enjoyed watching me harvest my first little bit of horseradish. I will have another video coming out soon of all of the natural remedies I use to keep us well through the colder months. I look forward to bringing you that. I'll see you very soon, friends. Take care. Hey Luna, how you doing? I don't think everyone can see what's happening here with you standing right there. Huh? Do you want to come over here? Come over here? My dogs are always so interested in what I'm doing in the garden. Okay, now we've got Jackie as well. What can you smell? This is not going to work. I'm trying to dig up my horseradish and you are in the way. Come on, let's get a shovel, eh?